Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak, Baruch, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Haye Sarah. Haye Sarah, of course, we know, is the famous Bazra, the matchmaking, the genius matchmaker of Eliezer, Eved Avraham, we are introduced to in this week's Perashat. And we see a lot of amazing things going on. The amount of divine intervention that takes place as he is searching for a wife for his master's son, for Yitzchak. And Eliezer doesn't know where to go, he doesn't know what to do. His father just said, go back to my homeland, find a wife for my son. The Midrash tells us that Eliezer, the Pasuk says that Eliezer, as he embarks on his journey, he makes a deal with God, he asks God for help, and he says, he does a sign. It's a very interesting thing. A sign, if you're allowed to do this, you know, sometimes we make our own signs, if it's a red light, then it means that I should marry him, you ever heard people do things like that? Some silly things like that. Now, again, Eliezer's sign was not silly, and we'll see in a minute exactly why. He says, whoever is going to give me to drink and my camels to drink, she will be the wife for Yitzchak. Well, the Midrash comes along as we are studying the Midrash this year together. The Midrash Rabbah says, there are 4 people who in our scripture made requests that were inappropriate. 3 out of these 4, nonetheless, it was given a answer in a proper way. However, to 1 out of the 4, what he sought was given to him in an improper manner. And here they are. If you want to pause the video and take a guess, who are the 4 people in history? Who are the 4 people who made requests? Okay, if you want to write it down in the chat, we'll also take the answer. Okay, here we go. Ve'eluhin, Eliezer Eved Avraham. That's that one we knew. It's coming up right here. Kalev, Shaul, and Yiftah. So here we go. Eliezer, that's this parasha. He said, V'haya hana'ara asher omar eleha. He's made a deal with God. The lady that I say, please give me to drink, she will be the wife for Isaac. So why is that inappropriate? So the Midrash says, Ilu yat'a ama hat v'hishkato haya masi'a leben adono. Because according to his terms, if a slave woman would have gone out and given him to drink, then he would have been forced to marry her to Yitzchak. That would be inappropriate to marry Yitzchak to a slave woman. However, zimen lo hakadosh baruch hu kehogen. God nonetheless sent him the right one. He answered his prayer. He brought him Rivkah. Not always, do we get our terms. Not always are they met in the right way. It happened to be Eliezer got lucky. God took care of him to make sure it was the right one. And like we know, the story plays out as he finishes the deal. Rivkah comes and she gives him to drink. Kalev also inappropriate. He didn't ask properly. What did he ask for? Well, he was asking for one of his warriors to come and smite Kiryat Sefer. And he said, whoever conquers it, Natati et Achsah biti leisha. I will give my daughter Achsah as a wife. That's how things worked back then. The girl didn't have a say. It was the man's world. The father chooses who's going to be the wife, for the husband for his daughter. Ilu lekada eved, and it's not appropriate because according to his terms, again, if a slave would have captured it, then Kalev would have given his daughter to a slave. However, zimen lo hakadosh baruch hu kahogen. Luckily for him, a righteous fellow by the name of Osniel ben Kenaz came and conquered the city. By the way, these 2, Osniel and Achsah, they ended up getting married. Okay, they're one of the 6 couples in Tanakh that the first letter of their name is the same letter. Okay, just a little trivia for you. Ayin Achsah and Ayin Osniel. they share the same first letter of the name, Ayin Ayin. There's 5 more. Okay? If anyone's interested, if you want to email me the answer, okay? If you want the answers, you can also email me. But either way, it's some interesting trivia. Number 3, Shaul. Shaul also, there's no significance to that. They just have the same letter. It's just cool. Okay? Shaul, he also said, whoever kills Goliath will give my daughter. And again, it could have been someone inappropriate killed him. Luckily, it was David HaMelech who killed him. And David, we know, was a great king, righteous fellow. Tzaddik. And the fourth guy, Hazit, didn't play out well for him, was Yiftah. Yiftah HaGiladi was one of the judges, and he was also a general. And right before the battle with Ammon, he said, God, whoever, if we win, then whatever comes out of the doors of my house, I'll bring as a sacrifice to you. He was thinking there would be an animal that came out of his house. Now that wouldn't have been the worst thing if it was an animal, even if it was a not kosher one, a dog or a cat, would still be inappropriate. But it was even worse than that. It was his daughter that came out of the house. And, there's two opinions of how the story played out. But, the consensus is that he had to give her as a sacrifice to God. He put her on a mountain to live alone as a hermit for the rest of her life. And he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't get the right answer from God. It would have been good if a sheep came out of the house, if an ox, a regular animal that we bring as a sacrifice, a goat, something. Maybe his mother-in-law, but it was his daughter. And that was unfortunate for him. And again, there's a lot of literature, there's a lot of questions on this specific episode. Why didn't he ask for Hataran Nedarim? Why didn't he ask for annul the vow? We know we make vows, we annul the vow. He could have easily done Hataran Nedarim, but he didn't. And there was a little bit of arrogance over here, because he said that the rabbis should come to me to annul the vow. I'm the judge. That's what he said. Pinchas, who was the rabbi at the time, to annul the vow, he said he needs me. He should come to me. And Yiftach said, but I'm the head of the Jewish people. He should come to me. And between him and him, each one waiting for the other to come to them, she remained her whole life single. Which is, again, a very sad reality that we see many times, that we let arrogance get in the way of our children. How many times parents are fighting in a divorce, and they just for their own, they use the kids as pawns, and for their own ego. It's very sad. We see it today. We shouldn't think that this is something that only happened 3,000 years ago. Today happens all the time. When parents are maybe even not getting divorced, but they're just not they're not in shalom, they're not in peace, and so they'll each try to one up the other in front of the kids or through the kids, and the kids suffering. No, don't worry, I said it's okay, go tell your father, right? It's important that we don't allow ego to get in the way of our success and our children and everything in between. Okay. Well, either way, again, God didn't grant his request. His terms weren't met, unfortunately for him. He didn't need to make that deal. Eliezer, it was what he was asking was correct. I need a lady who's chesed, who does kindness. She gives camels, who gives me. That's a good quality. It wasn't. You're right. Maybe he wasn't. What's it called? He could have been a little bit more clear in his wording, but the deal that he made was a generally good deal. It was appropriate. It made sense. Also, David and Shaul and Kalev. At the end of the day, you need someone to conquer the city, and these are things that the Jewish people need. But you didn't need to give an animal as a korban, and you definitely did not need for God to pick the animal that comes out of the house first. You could have gone to your backyard and just pick an animal. So that was unnecessary. Okay. Well, as you know, the story plays out. He ends up seeing that it was Rivkah. And she does all these miracles for him. And he sees the miracles that happen for her. Now, I want to read to you the Midrash again. Let's fast forward a little bit. He sees a lady coming out. And she's very beautiful, Pasuk says. Vayarot ha'eved likrata. He runs to her. Vayomer hagmi'ini na me'at mayim ekadech. Could you please give me some water from your jug? Vatomer shiteh. She says, please drink. And she gives him to drink, and she gives his camels to drink. Now, why did he run to her? Why did he run to her? He just asked God for any girl that's going to give me to drink and the camels to drink. Okay. Then he sees a girl going to the well and he runs to her. Why did he run to her? There was many wells, many girls were drawing water from wells. Why did he run specifically to her? What did he see? Says the Midrash, Vayaros ha'eved. And again, Rashi quotes the Midrash, Likrat ma'aseha hatovim. He ran to her good deeds. What does that mean? He ran to her good deeds. What good deeds? She didn't do anything yet. But the Midrash explains that Eliezer witnessed the water rising. Ra'a she'alu hamayim likrata. He saw that the water was rising to her feet. And he realized that must be because of her good deeds, that the miracle happened. And there's another, again, amazing lesson here. You see this amazing miracle. Water's rising to her feet. What could be bigger proof? She must be the one, right? Wrong. Miracles is not enough. For Eliezer, that was not enough to convince him that she would be a good wife. He needed to know that she have good midot, that she have good character. Was she kindness? But what do you mean? She could do miracles. She can make the water come up. That wasn't enough. She has to be Baal Chesed. Well, of course, he does the test. After she's done to give him, she says, let me give. Vatomer sheteh. Vatecha le'ashkoto. She finished giving him. Vatomer gam legmalecha eshav. And she says, okay, I'm going to give your camels too. Now Eliezer is just amazed. He's grateful. Vaha'ish mishta'ela. He is shocked. He wants to know, is this the one? Could it be? It was so simple. God brought her to right in front of me, to my nose. And of course, he asked, where are you from? And she said, I'm from Betuel. And now he pulls out the gifts to give her. I guess you could call this the first sueni. Okay? What do you give at the sueni? Vayikach ha'ish nezem zahav. He took a nose ring. Okay? They wore nose rings back then. Okay? Beka mishkalo. And weight was a beka. Okay? Beka is not so heavy for a nose ring. Okay, not that I know what nose rings usually weigh, but the commentaries say that beka is not so heavy. So they explain that it was the stone in the nose ring. The stone itself was a beka. Okay? Not 1 carat or 2 carat. It was a beka. That's a very heavy stone. That's impressive. So he gives her a nose ring. That was a beka. Rashi writes, what is that beka? We know that word beka. Jog my memory. That's the weight of the shekel. Remember, each Jew had to give a machatzita shekel. A machatzita shekel's weight is a beka. Okay, interesting number. So he gives her a nose ring that's a beka. Ushnei tzemidim, and 2 bracelets, al yadeha, not 1 but 2. Bangles maybe, I don't know. Asara zahav mishkalam. And their weight was again 10 gold. Now, the Midrash comes and explains. Shnei tzemidim al yadeha keneged shnei luchot. 2 bracelets because of the 2 tablets. Asara zahav mishkalam keneged aseret deberot. And their weight was 10 corresponding to the 10 deberot, commandments. Now, I want to share with you over here very powerful Be'er Yosef. Be'er Yosef, Rav Yosef Tzvi Salant, on this Midrash, He says we have to understand, why is the Torah telling us these measurements? Does it matter that he's giving her 2 bracelets for the 2 tablets and then 10 for the 10 commandments? And what he's basically telling her is that the Jewish people that are going to be accepting the Torah are going to come through you. But again, so that's enough to give her something that weighs 10. Why 2 bracelets? Give her 1 bracelet that weighs 10. Why 2 bracelets that weigh 10? And why a nose ring specifically? And he explains very beautiful. Says the Be'er Yosef, we know that the 10 commandments were not written on 1 tablet. Right? God could have given 1 big tablet and 10. But it wasn't 10. It was 5 and 1 and 5 on the other. And we know that the 5 on the first were mitzvot that were ben adam lamakom. They were commandments between man and God. Believe in God, no other God. Use His name in vain. Don't break Shabbat. And even respecting your parents. That's also part of man to God, because it's through ben adam, through respecting parents, we realize what it means to respect our Creator. So the first 5 are ben adam lamakom. The second 5, of course, adultery and murder and theft. These are testimony, coveting. These are 5 that are man to man, ben adam lahavero. Now, although these are 2 separate tablets, and they may seem to be unrelated, but the Torah is very clear. When Moshe comes down, it says, "Shenei luchot ha'edut." He brought down the 2 tablets, but the word luchot is spelled without a vav. And that's significant because the word luchot without a vav is read luchat, as if it's singular. And the Torah is over here telling us that the 2 tablets are really 1. That means that to be a Jew cannot focus only on one or the other. A Jew has to focus on both. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes when we shine in one, it comes at the expense of the other. We grow, man to God. You see sometimes people, they're growing, man to God. They're becoming very religious and this and that. And then when it comes to people, they're very nasty. They're not respectful. They have 0 people skills. Rude. They stink when it comes to ben adam l'chavero. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe that's their test, whatever it is. But they fail. Sometimes they think it's unimportant. I'm doing more important things. I'm with God. I don't have to worry about you. I'm praying. So what if I'm going to wake you up in the airplane? I have to pray. And they pray with a minyan and loud and wake people up. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You got to be considerate for people as well. You got to grow this way as well as you got to grow this way. And you have people the opposite. People that they're only nice to people. They shine man to man. And then when it comes to God, the mitzvot up this way, there's nothing to be proud of over there. Again, they also have their excuses or their philosophy. The heart is the most important thing. God only cares about the heart, the heart, the heart, the heart. And it doesn't matter if I break Shabbat, who did I kill? Who did I hurt? I'm a nice guy. That's all that matters. That's what you say. You made that up. Okay, call it your own religion. Christianity also. Just be a nice guy. So what's the difference between you and a Christian? Judaism requires more than being a nice guy. It's not enough to be a nice guy. You got to be a nice guy, yes, that's half. And you also have to be a nice Jew. You have to be upright, man to God. And a person can never neglect one or the other. We cannot allow ourselves to become comfortable by merely just performing half. And again, each one of us, we have a half that's easy for us to do. Easier for us to do. We have to always make sure we're growing at both equally. So as an example, Rosh Hashanah, the rabbis suggest that when you make a resolution, you should pick something that has 2. You should pick a mitzvah here, man to God, and you should pick a mitzvah that's man to man. You got to do one of each. It's not enough to be one or the other. Now, Rivkah Imenu, as we've seen over here in the story, she excels in man to man. She's amazing when it comes to kindness. Chesed. Ben Adam lachavero. What she's vowing over here for Eliezer is just above and beyond. Feeding the camels, giving him and everything and everyone. And she's a little girl. She doesn't ask them for help. She has a heart of gold. A heart of gold. And he gives her these 2 golden bracelets because he's reminding her, honey, you got to have 2 hearts of gold. You have to have one for people, but you need another for Hashem. It's not enough that you're kind. That's beautiful that you're kind. It's very nice. That's 1 bracelet. That's 1 tablet. But the other tablet also matters. The other tablet is also important. So he gives her 2 bracelets to remind her, now you're good. But when you come to the house of Avraham, he's going to teach you a lot of things. A whole new religion, a philosophy, approach. That's what Avraham was going to teach her. Yitzchak, so she had midot. She had good character. That's great. But he reminds her that's all he has. You have to make sure that you also are working on your ideology, on the relationship that you have between man and God. And that's why he gave her a nose ring. Because what does nose smell represent? Well, the Midrash in Emor, when it talks about the 4 species on Sukkot, it says that each one represents another type of Jew. The etrog is a Jew that's perfect in Torah and mitzvot and deeds. That's the etrog, smell and taste. The lulav only has taste. That's the Jew that excels in Torah. The hadas only has smell. That's the Jew that excels in good character, in midot. The arava has nothing, so it doesn't smell, doesn't taste. It's empty from both. No good deeds and no. And this is what we're talking about. The etrog is the Jew that's good in Torah, man to God, and taste and smell. Asim tovim, man to man. And then the lulav is the Jew that's good only in Torah. And the hadas is the Jew that's good in good deeds. Right? The left half. Man to man. The arava is not good in either. And this is what Eliezer is telling Rivkah. Nose ring. You have good smell. The hadas again. The hadas smell is ma'asim tovim. That represents good deeds. You have that. And you shine. But what is the weight of that nose ring? Beka. It's only a machatzit hashekel. It's only half a coin. The other half, you still have yet to learn. And so he wants to make sure that she's on the page of growth. Of course, when we're dating people, sometimes the people that we're dating are not always perfect in both. We have to make sure that we are aligned. If you're growing, if it's important for you to be a good Jew, if it's important for you to have Shabbat and kosher and everything like that, you have to be on the same page as the person that you're dating. You have to tell them what you're looking for, what matters to you, what kind of home you want to have, what kind of house you want to raise. Now, if they're respectful and they're growing and they're open, that's, okay. So you date more and, definitely it's maybe could have potential. But if they're not open, if they say, no, I'm not down. Okay, so you have to make that choice. You have to live with that. Are you okay with that? But Eliezer over here is looking for a complete person, and he finds Rivkah Imenu, and she's got great chesed. And the truth is, that's all he was looking for. She has great midot, because he understands what his father, what his Rebbe Avraham understood. Don't take a girl from Canaan. Why not? Because they have avodah zarah. Okay, and so do the other ones. Rivkah's house wasn't avodah zarah. Rivkah's house was full of idolatry. But Avraham is telling Eliezer, and maybe a lesson for us, that but at least in Haran, they have good character. They have good midot. A person with good midot, you're workable. Philosophy, you could talk to them, you could explain to them God, concepts. A person with bad midot, very hard to change. Very hard to change that. And so Avraham would rather a person that excels in chesed and is deficient in religion. He would rather that, because then you could help the person religiously if they're truly good in their character. Of course, Rivkah was also born in a house that didn't know of these things. We would call it tinok shenishba. She's a child that's raised without knowing. She was never educated in the ways of God, the values of Avraham. But either way, again, I think for us it's a very, very important lesson that we have to always make sure that we are climbing in both, that we are excelling in both. We can never allow our Yiddishkeit, our Judaism, to cause us to look down at people or to disregard people. But we could also never allow our love of people to be the excuse and the reason of why we are negligent in our mitzvot between man and God. Okay, my friends, we'll stop over here. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.